Hello and welcome to our webinar. My name is Fiona Hood and I'm the brand architect at Image 7. Our topic today is the best way to influence word of mouth. Let me introduce you to the presenters and we'll get the webinar started. Our first presenter is Brad Entwistle. He is Image 7's founder and managing director. And our second presenter is Andrew Scully-Sculthorpe, who is our business director. If you listen to our fortnightly podcast, you'll know their voice as well. So guys, let's begin the webinar.
Thanks, Fiona. It's Brad here, and just a really quick overview of Image 7 for those of you who don't know us. That's the world, and that's the spots where we are. So our major presence, if you like, the office where everything happens is in Perth, and we call that the service hub, but we've got offices and staff in Sydney, in Brisbane, Adelaide, and in Ireland, servicing UK and Ireland as well. So we've had 24 years experience in school marketing. There's a team of 23 of us spread around the offices, and as I said before, the service hub is in Perth. So that's the full intro to Image 7. Now, today, what are we going to achieve? Within the next 25 minutes, hopefully, we'll get to the point where we can say you've effectively learnt to use and influence your school's word of mouth and control to a degree in what's being said. And to join us in that is my colleague and my friend, the other man on the other side of the microphone, Scully. How are you?
Yeah, very well, very well. Delighted to be talking about word of mouth. I have been accused of being full of mouth and all mouth, and I'll try not to put my foot in my mouth.
Well, with that, we can do nothing more than move on. So first up, Scully, I'm going to grill you today. So you're the word of mouth guru. The thing about word of mouth is the title, the name suggests that it just happens, but good word of mouth doesn't just happen.
I'm afraid not. No, so many schools over the years I've talked to are going to just need to get word of mouth. That's all we need to rely on. Everything will be fine, and word of mouth is strong, etc., etc. But look, it doesn't just happen without a real concerted marketing effort. Not in this day and age, anyway, and certainly not the good stuff. So it's something that needs to be worked at.
And all of the things that we do, essentially, we've got toolboxes that we draw upon, toolboxes, and whether they are indeed software or real manuals or even procedures, the way we do things. What are the toolboxes for actual word of mouth?
Well, look, I must say, first of all, word of mouth is incredibly important. And if you can't achieve anything else and you're lucky enough to get word of mouth, that positive word of mouth, that's fantastic. But in itself, it's not enough. It doesn't act alone. And there's a whole range of different marketing tools and services now that can really help frame what's being said to be what you want to be said.
So the real truth of the matter is it doesn't matter how big or how small your school is, word of mouth marketing is vital. Virtually every study that either we've undertaken or we've seen anywhere in the world will identify word of mouth marketing in schools as the primary thing that influences decision makers. So, let's just take that as a given. But to get all of the word of mouth marketing ducks in a row, and not like our little duck on the end there, but paddling in the wrong direction, is it just about the plan, Scully?
The plan is vital because you, as I've said earlier, there are so many different things to do to harness the broader community into saying what you want them to say, into harnessing your existing community into being positive advocates for you. And in fact, even just neighbours in the region. And in order to do that, it's you can't just rely on luck. There's internal communications, of course. That's one part of it. There's community engagement. I guarantee you'll be involved in so many of these things currently, but it's about consistently aligning everything. Your digital footprint, the promotions you're involved in, the events that are going on, really understanding what the competition is doing, saying, how they're portrayed, monitoring what's being said, having a media relations strategy, understanding where geomapping is a fancy way of saying where your families are, basically. And then there's good old-fashioned advertising. So if you just throw them all out and hope for the best, well, you might get some luck. But if you really coordinate them, choreograph them, then hopefully you'll find that word of mouth follows.
So we've always known, the world has always known, that word of mouth is very important in school marketing. But why? And it's only in the last few years that research has been undertaken that shows why. And you may have seen this one from us before, but essentially 2/3, depends which study you look at, but usually between 60 and 70%, 2/3 of purchasing decisions for considered purchases, and the school is certainly that. So 2/3 of the decision is already made by the time that they identify themselves to you, the school. So imagine that. So 2/3 of the decision-making process has been made before you even know that somebody is in the market for looking at your school. So that means that you might not actually, 2/3 of your prospects, you don't even know that they exist before they decide and go away. You don't get a chance to talk to them. That's why word of mouth is critically important. So some of those decisions, Scully?
It's important to really put yourself in the position of your community, of the mouths that you want the good words coming out of, to understand the decision-making process. And really, there's some good research here out of TKP from a few years ago, but it can provide a whole insight, a great deal of insight for any school, because it really outlines the top 5 most important reasons for selecting a school. Guess what? Top of that, forget anything else, opinions of others. People, it's such an important element. People are looking for affirmation, or they don't know where to turn. They look for opinions of others. Then there's other school visits, observing children, from the school, other students, meeting the staff, and a school tour. But top of that is opinions of others. So never underestimate what's being said. Now, in addition, from the same survey, there's all sorts of criticisms as to how schools do communicate and how they could do a better job. And you see, if you start to align what people are looking for and what their decision-making process is about with how they want to be communicated to, you start to see a plan come into action. So the better use of electronic communications, improved email communications, that direct personal touch, parent interviews, and again, coordination of information. So using that information, understanding the mindset, enables you to go, this is how our audience wants to be talked to.
Now, just a few statistics to really back that up. 74% of people identify word of mouth as a key influencer, generally. No surprise there, but nice to have a number to back it up. Word of mouth's been shown to improve marketing effectiveness by up to 54%. Now that, for those of us in marketing, that is a cracker number, because imagine that if we could just ratchet up our effectiveness by half just by getting the word of mouth right. Now, I glibly say just by getting the word of mouth right. It's of course not that easy. But also the last number there, a 10% increase in word of mouth, both on and offline, is what we're talking about in terms of word of mouth here, translates into a sales lift of up to 1.5%. So relatively small increase in effectiveness in word of mouth translates into significant increase at the other end. Why? And here's the big number. 92% of people believe family and friends over advertising. No surprise, but if grandma tells you that baked beans are good for you, even if you don't like baked beans, you're going to believe it, as opposed to the ad on telly. Scully?
As a former ad man, it's I've gone to the other side, and I see the truth of that matter. The fact is, of course, we trust our peers, we trust those that we really respect. But how do we get people to respect our views and our word? First of all, for every school, know your audience, know it is you want to talk to. You don't need to talk to the world and his wife, not at all. What you need to do is identify your community, your broader community, and so research that. Now that may be with an actual survey. It may be anecdotal, but pool the research that you do have so you really understand who you're talking to, who your existing community is, and importantly, if you're looking to broaden that customer base, the parents of the future, then look to how you can reach those people, and then create a parent persona. Now, what does that mean? Well, that is really almost a caricature. If we're going to create content that's aimed at a particular type of person, namely your community, then in your mind, or even articulate this, it's draw a demographic, but then almost draw the person in your mind, because as you're creating content to those people, it's important to know exactly who these people are. And I guarantee it'll be more than one person. It won't just be the 25 to 35-year-old mum. It'll be a number of people, different important stakeholders, each with an important opinion. And the key is answer their questions, understand from the research what their questions are, understand the type of thoughts they have, their personas, understand their questions and answer them. Then you're going to get them really listening to you. Importantly, though, let's say you know your audience, you know what you want to say, but actually, who are you? What is special about your school? Can you articulate the difference between your school and anywhere else? What are the benefits of an education at your school? So again, it's an important exercise before going too deeply into all of this, that you actually sit back and articulate what an education at your school is about, the benefits for that, what makes you stand out from the crowd, and really stand for something. Don't be, not everyone's ever going to like you. Stand for something, be proud, stand up, and then you have a message to communicate.
Now, one of the ideas that we've preached for a long, long time at Image 7 is the idea of consistency. And here, consistency is the key. But Scully, what sort of consistency are we talking about? Because clearly we can't tell people what to say. We can't give them a nice paragraph about us and go out and say, use this when you talk about us.
No. But what we can do is give you some of those tools in that toolbox from earlier. One of those really important ones is to develop a set of key messages. If you want people to talk about you, put the words in their mouth. What are the key messages you want to be said about you? You believe are really true about you. Don't just make them up. They've got to resonate. They have a grain of truth in there. It's sound marketing practice to have a set of key messages, to articulate a value proposition, to develop a tagline that really becomes the filter almost through which everything about you must go, because they in your marketing communication, the key message is the essence of what you're about. You probably, if you don't, you probably ought to have a style guide which articulates the visual identity of the school. Don't put the crest on the side, don't put it in green with the yellow spots, whatever it may be. But if you're going to be consistently communicating, make sure the words are consistent and the visual identity is consistent. And on top of that, beyond just the messages, I really recommend developing a language guide. So you're using the same type of language, not just fantastic, brilliant, awesome. Maybe they're all good, but be known for something and consistently layer and use that language so that the words we're putting into people's mouth, we're putting out there, are coming back via their mouths. What will this do? By being consistent, and I mean remorselessly consistent, you'll start to create advocates. There's nothing more powerful than one of your parents raving about your school to the next generation, saying, "Oh, it's just fantastic." There's nothing more powerful in marketing terms than that. But when you just think you're getting just a little bit bored of your own voice and tired of saying the same thing, only then, I guarantee, will your audience actually even be waking up to the fact that this is what you're about. So keep being consistent, layering it remorselessly. And if you've got a lot in common with a lot of other schools, there's not a great deal of difference. If you're consistently communicating this is what you're about, you'll stand out for being particularly strong in that. Really strengthen your USP, your unique selling point. And people take a pride. They'll take a pride in the fact that you're standing up for something, and your existing community, your advocates for the future, will develop a greater pride and trust in what you're saying, a loyalty, which then spins off, and you've got really positive word of mouth.
Now, in this next few moments, if there is nothing else that you remember from this webinar, this is the bit that we want you to remember. So this is where you sit up and really pay attention, because the 3 E's are coming your way. Now, this is mostly it's just because we find it easy to remember. But we think if we find it easy to remember, you probably will too. And the 3 E's, the first one is engage. Scully?
Yeah, really listen to your audience, to your community. Again, I've mentioned surveys. Really listen out there, and there are tools that you can do that with. Once you're regularly communicating in whatever form, be it electronically or personally, listen, encourage a dialogue, encourage. It's not just one way. Interact, and most of all, answer the questions that your community, your advocates want to know about. Now, that's not just about the fact you've got more sports fields than anyone else. Not at all. It's not a bragging. It's about engaging and getting people seeing you as thought leaders with a real authority in an area. Engage people with great content.
And the next one is to equip people.
Yeah, really, tell you what, be a good storyteller. That's the way I'm thinking about it. If you're going to blog, make them really thoughtful blog topics. If you're sending an e-newsletter, really highlight important stuff. Captivate. It may sound a bit of a grand word. Really captivate your audience, because by doing that, you're going to give people a reason to be talking about you. It's about being that authority in the field, and people seeing you as these guys just really know whatever it is you're really good at.
Actually, there's a really a good book by Seth Godin on that. It's called Purple Cow. And the idea, of course, is a purple cow is unlike a brown cow. A purple cow is remarkable. It's worthy of remark. And that's a bit about what the equip is, equipping people to have a reason to talk about you. And the third E is empower.
Make it easy. Make it easy for people, your audience, to share. Now, there are lots of tools. Yes, I'm going to bring in those 2 words, social media, that make it very easy to share. You can do that by just a simple icon at the bottom of your blog or your white paper, whatever it is you're wanting people to talk about. But all in all, just make, not just technologically, empower people, encourage people to share your information. You're not going to lose. It's not about trademarking anymore. It's about being seen in your community as the people that know about education and know about your students. And so make it easy for people to share that knowledge very, very quickly. And now I've said all that, and you may have got your head around the 3 E's. Don't stop. Keep going. Keep going. Play to your strength and keep going. What are your audience's biggest fears? Keep pushing, keep driving, be consistently layering it. That doesn't mean you need to bombard people with copious amounts, but if you've set up a regular communication, a regular blog, a regular webinar, podcast, all sorts of different tools, then keep doing it so people get to know how when you're communicating, and that way you'll develop an audience. People learn to rely and look forward to hearing from you.
Now, this next little aid to memory, I'm laying entirely at Scully's feet for putting a lowercase in the middle of a uppercase word, but mostly so that he can make his points.
Liar, liar. Yeah, something rhymes with that. Anyway, having said, get that news out, get the information out, talk, communicate. You've got some great stuff to talk about, I'll guarantee. It's also about listening. It's not just about ramming it home. It's about listening intently, hearing what people have got to say. And there are some fantastic tools to be able to do that now, whether it be it in the press, be it in social media, be it on radio, TV, all sorts of ways. You can quite easily pool what's being said about you at any one time. And so once you've done that, that's going to provide you for information to answer people's questions going forward, or an opportunity to respond. Keep the conversation live. So assess what's being said as well. Sometimes, okay, that didn't have a very good response. That's fine, or that had a good response. We've hit a nerve. We can create more content on that topic. Another great idea: research. Research positions you as a real authority in a field. So research on whatever matter you may be wanting to be seen as a thought leader in, education for sure, but there are so many other areas through schools. Research can position you again as a real leader.
So what do schools actually have to talk about? What are these things that we can be planting in the minds? What are the tools that we can give people, we can equip them with to talk about our school? And there are a good number of advantages to independent schools. And we're talking here generically.
Yeah, look, here's some examples of what you might talk about. Of the top half a dozen reasons for people selecting independent schools. Good teachers, a disciplined environment, good facilities, educational excellence, safe environment, whatever they may be. Here's examples of what you could be talking about, not the fact that we're just the greatest school ever. It's discussing, talking about topics that really demonstrate you as an authority, not just saying we're great because we've been around for 150 years. So it's about constantly moving on, showing that the content you're creating positions you as a really the best in your field. And when you start demonstrating that, you'll find that people start following you and want to hear more, and that'll broaden your audience and ultimately lead to more better prospects for the future.
Scully, in fact, just an anecdote about that, really quickly, because we're running out of time, but one of our clients recently, a tradesman parked outside the school, had nothing to do with the school, absolutely nothing to do with the school, was working at a house nearby, had his tools stolen, and he asked at the school office, so the school office became aware of this guy's problem, and the students, along with one of the heads, did a fundraiser to help him buy some new tools. Now, very nice in and of itself. That's great. But what happened then was that the wife of the tradesman wrote a letter to the local paper to thank the school. That's the sort of tools that really engenders word of mouth. So social media, great big topic, Scully, but there's different social media requires different voices, and we would never recommend that you try and be across all of them, but just a few. With Facebook, on Facebook, the sort of language you're using is I like guitars. On Twitter, you say I'm playing my guitar. On Instagram, you're saying here I am playing my guitar. And on LinkedIn, you're saying, I'm very skilled at teaching guitar. And on YouTube, here's me playing my guitar. Now, we know that they're made up examples because I can't play the guitar at all. But be aware of the different voices. Don't try and be in every medium at any one time. Now, Scully, so when we're not actually, the thing that's probably many of the participants in the webinar are thinking is, okay, well, I can't actually tell them exactly what to say because that's not going to work. I'm giving these authentic messages out. How does it all work? What do I tell people?
Be real. Look, at the end of the day, people are people. People buy people too. So that authenticity is so important. It's got to be interesting content. It's got to be relevant content to your audience. That is about, well, every school will have a different type of audience, and what's relevant to them. That's why it's important to listen. But people will soon see through if there's blatant lies and trying to pontificate as if actually you're Yale. It's about understanding who you are, assessing exactly the way best to communicate that, and being real, encouraging a dialogue, because you're dealing with people.
Now, Scully, we're rapidly running out of time, but in terms of all of the marketing and communication channels that are available to us, and there's just so many, and there's more every day, are we talking across purposes here? We're saying sort of mix it up, but also concentrate on a few channels. Give the same sorts of messages so they become repeatable and remarkable, but keep it fresh. Aren't we talking sort of at cross purposes?
It's about using first of all identifying the different media, if you like, that you can control. No one can ever go across everything, but it's trying to do the best job you do. Identify the ones you do, monitor them regularly, communicate regularly in them, or through them or via them, and keep it fresh. Keep that content fresh. But don't try and do everything. You'll never be able to do everything. It's important, though, to monitor what's being said. And there's certain ones, good old-fashioned media relations. Have a relationship with the press. A positive dialogue will also work wonders for you.
Okay, so let's bring this into land because we will run out of time. So what's the outcome here, Scully? Where do we go?
Well, it's not about likes. There's organizations spend millions to get millions of likes, and what's the point? It's about conversion, isn't it? It's about the mindset of starting a dialogue with your existing community and your potential parents, prospective parents for the future. And the whole mindset is about converting them from someone who's listening to you, someone who respects what you've got to say, and converting them, ultimately in marketing terms, converting them into leads. And once you have a lead, when there's through an inbound marketing technology, you can monitor who it is that's listening, enter into a dialogue, track who they are, nurture them. And at some stage, enrollments, admissions also becomes involved too. So you've got the existing community advocating you, and then the new people will be fed through into admissions, who can then go from nurturing and that the marketing department's been doing through to converting into the next generation of parents, who will then, if you do this right, rinse, repeat, keep going forever, will be then your next advocates. So track, nurture, and convert. It never really stops.
Okay, thanks, Scully. Now, just to wrap up, a few resources on this topic that could be useful for you. Number one, of course, this webinar recording, it'll be available in the next couple of days as we put it up, and some ebooks. There's an ebook, Inbound Marketing for Schools, an ebook on Message Architecture program, and the Brand Protection program. All related to word of mouth and very useful. You can get that at image7.com.au/webinar resources. And of course, you can have a one-on-one session with Scully himself. Sorry, he's there chuckling in the background because his diary's filling up. But ask Scully how you can apply this to get more enrolment inquiries. You can do that at image7.com.au. And, well, a big one, free strategy session.edu. Some free resources, well, in fact, all of that's free, but some free resources that are regular. The SMC e-newsletter, which is comes out with articles, the SMC blogs, some more articles, School Marketing Communications or SMC podcast, Scully and myself, 30 minutes once a fortnight, and bringing you news that you can use in relation to school marketing. And of course, there's the library of webinars that you can find all of that at image7.com.au/webinar resources. And so that's pretty much that. I'll hand back to Fiona because she may have some questions for us, but I'm also conscious that we're running out of time.
Thanks, Brad, and thanks, Scully. We do have a couple of quick questions. So the first one, I'll direct it to Brad. It's from Joanne. How do I know what is being said about my school?
Well, Joanne, I suppose if we think about that in, old media terms or traditional terms, and that is actually being connected to the people who are the source of the grapevine in schools. Every school's got a grapevine. Make sure you know who they are, so you can hear the word of mouth and get that relayed to you. So that's good old fashioned, tactical face-to-face marketing. But In the digital realm, there's lots of different tools now which create what we would call generically listening posts, ways of listening to what's happening online, either both in social media or on websites with your own audience, the wider community, and indeed your competitors. And that competitive environment is becoming more and more important in schools. So different tools there work best for different situations. So I'd say we can get in touch and actually talk about what your situation is and which is the best tool for you.
Thanks, Brad. Just one question from Steve, which I'm going to direct to Scully. Is Facebook the most important social media platform?
To some people, without a shadow of a doubt, but I would suggest for any school, any firm, organization for that matter, no, because the most important tool you have is your own website. That's the real estate you do own, and you want to drive people there. Facebook can work really hard. It can engage and is a very handy tool alongside some of the others. But don't build your house on rented land. Rules change with Facebook and other social media, so it's great to engage, but it needs constant monitoring. And I would recommend that the bulk of the information is housed on your website. And yes, you encourage people to share through Facebook, but own what you can really own, as opposed to rely on another business, which is Facebook, and that's what they are, a business.
Thanks, Scully. Well, that's all the questions I've got. If you do think of a question later on today or tomorrow, feel free to email us at smc@image7.com.au, and we'd be more than happy to answer them for you. So thanks for joining the webinar. I do hope you found it useful. Remember, look out for the email, which will be in your email box by the end of the week, with the recording of this webinar and some really helpful resources. So that's the end of the webinar. Thanks so much, and bye for now.